Welcome to Things Invest, talk about investing, finance, fresh to the moment. For today's video, Ethereum only. The investment I'm going to talk about today will be Ethereum ticker ETA. First, just want to say happy Sunday, everybody. Hope everybody had a great week so far. With respect to Ethereum, so I'm recording around 7:17 a.m. on the Eastern time right now. Currently trading at like the $1960 level, down about 10.2%. And with respect to the recent macro dynamics, right, that's been driving the sell-off that we saw during the last 2 days, in combination with the weekend affectation that's also in the equation, has really stemmed from a couple of things, right? The 4chain privacy issues that's been percolating and basically reinforcing on a media front, the $5 million payout from the treasury, and also with respect to Anthony Del Lorio, the founder of Ethereum, departing and basically saying goodbye to crypto for good, right? Obviously, we don't have a specific understanding about his life aspiration as to why he's departing. Maybe he has made enough money, made enough wealth that he wants to invest the rest of his life, his time, into pursuing some other things, right? Maybe family, friends, or etc., or just travel the world without having to think about monetary value anymore, right? Which we all aspire to be doing, to be at that level of financial freedom someday. So I could resonate with that totally. On the opposite side of the spectrum, with respect to more positive news that we also got from the immediate front, would be the one Saquon Barkley, right? The running back for the New York Giants has decided to accept all future endorsement deals in payments via Bitcoin going forward. So obviously, with respect to a talented athlete like Saquon Barkley, young, ambitious, most of the athletes are obviously consulted with a financial advisor, right? So this is another stamp of approval with the endorsements, obviously from the representative of NFL, but obviously with respect to the wealth management side of the world as well, having this another stamp of approval, obviously for us, long-term investors in the crypto market. It's also obviously gives us a little bit more substance and gravitas into the equation, right? And then the other one is Fidelity, which is a large institution, financial broker, adding Ether trading for hedge funds going forward, obviously to capture that commission dollars going forward as, crypto going to be further adopted, and Ether is going to be one of those components that's going to be monumental into the erections of the success going forward. And as I looked into more recent news in the last 12 hours so far, for the last 45 minutes, ever since I woke up this morning, we have a collection of various different news. Some are more neutral, some are more lean toward the negative side of the spectrum, with obviously the negative news are more reinforcement of old news. Just try to basically stir up the market again, if you may, right? And one news that really stood out to me is from Cointelegraph, coming out from an author named Sam Baudry. So his depictions around, and the title says, AAVE or AF, the founder hints at developing Twitter on Ethereum. So in the recent Twitter post by Jack Dorsey, Jack announced earlier this week that Square Inc. is building a new open source platform for non-custodial Bitcoin services. So in response to Jack's post that happened on Thursday, I believe, the AAVE founder, Stanley Kuklikoff, and I'm butchering his name again, told his 90,000 Twitter followers on Saturday, right, which is basically yesterday, that his protocol should build Twitter on Ethereum. So obviously with the adjective that you see in the sentence, this is obviously just a hypothesis or a suggestion, if you may, knowing the fact that Jack is a Bitcoin maximalist, despite there's obviously substantive value proposition Ethereum. But with respect to male ego or just ego in general, having his stand so strongly on Bitcoin specifically as a maximalist, or maybe that's just more of a media affectation hype on building that reputation, right? Ultimately, we don't know how Jack is like, or what's his aspiration like, or what is his specific point of view. But I think we'll learn more about his depictions or the way he explains or which side does he stand on during the summit. So we will learn more. But obviously this news, some people might read the message incorrectly, or they might think that, oh, Twitter is adopting Ethereum, or they're using Ethereum to build their platform going forward. That obviously will convolute the message a little bit and subsequently drive some buying pressure, which subsequently allow us to leap up, or create some buying pressure, but also with respect to the rebound that we have from Friday, Saturday to Sunday, which typically is an occurrence that with been experiencing consecutively for the last 4 or 5 weekends so far, right? So I'm gonna go through a technical analysis, right, to prep for the game plan. Like, what should we be doing for the next couple of days? So stay tuned, stick around, let's make some money. Alright, so moving on to the technical analysis for Ethereum ticket ETH. I'm recording as of 8:23 a.m. on the Eastern time right now. Currently trading like the $1962 level, down about 1% so far. And you can see that with respect to the recent time frame, the last 24 hours so far, we hit that $1950 level, which is the level of identification that we were expecting, combining with the media affectation on what happened on that day off, and also with respect to the weekend affectation at the same time, right? It seems like we had the support yesterday from the AAVE article that came out, right? Or the depictions around the hypothesis that the AAVE founder suggests that Jack Dorsey's to adopt or utilize Ethereum for his platform going forward. So obviously, with this news, putting Ethereum's name as a representative and Twitter to it, from these two influential figures in the ecosystem, obviously will buy some buying pressure onto the dynamics of it as a whole, right? So we were able to support the $1850 level, which is typically a psychological resistance level that we've tested a bunch of times historically, right? We tested it yesterday, a day before, and then we also tested this on the 14th and the 13th. And then you can see that we'll also touch a bunch of time here around like the early June. And then a bunch of times here when we hit the dips. And then a bunch of times here, like way back before we ever had the whole rally all the way to the 4,000, right? With respect to the news, kind of recuperate from the selling pressure because of that news, but the news is not that substantive. That's number one. We know that, right? And for us to sustain this level, we either have to have another positive news to leap up all the way up to the 2,000. And once we get there, we consolidate from there because this is a flat number that typically investors like to buy at. It's just a psychological number, like 2,100, like those type of numbers. But if we were to have negative pressure, we'll actually leap back down to the comfort level of the 1900, hover around there, but actually test the 1860 or 1850 to be more specific, right? And I think we have a likelihood of doing so if we sell off. So these are the frames that we have to play around, right? So tomorrow, which is a relatively large catalyst, right, with respect to Janet Yellen having the meeting with all the regulators, sitting down together to discuss stablecoin, but obviously more of a euphemism for how they're going to be restricting crypto assets going forward, right? Is it going to be a form of taxation? Is it going to be a form of audits that we have to do as investors? Or is it as a form of just commission fees that, or anything like that that will restrict or hinder our profit margin or the growth going forward? With that type of affectation, we'll obviously have some selling pressure across the market, not just for Ethereum specifically, right? But if they scream at Ethereum specifically, we'll definitely have a lot more severe pressure onto Ethereum. So we have to definitely watch out for it. But these are the levels we want to be playing at, right? As for the B Word Summit, I do see, or I do anticipate some sort of buying pressure on Tuesday because of the fact that it's just an anticipatory type of momentum, right? We don't know what is going to be happening in the meeting. We know the agenda, but we don't know what is the verbiage that the host or the speaker is going to be talking about, right? We know that as a basis, Jack Dorsey is represented as the Bitcoin maximalist, right? And he has called a lot of the altcoin, especially for Ethereum, like shitcoin, if you may, right? So this is going to be a debate, I foresee, and we're going to have collectively a lot of the, crypto titans in the world into a circle, discussing on their point of view, right? So I think this is just a big media affectation play that we will be experiencing going forward. I actually foresee some buying pressure on Tuesday and then maybe selling pressure on Wednesday as we hear more, depending on how dramatic is obviously the meeting's going to be, right? Or the summit's going to be. So that's something we have to watch out for. And again, same comparable mindset, same logical manner, knowing the fact that these are the resistance levels that we've identified so far. You are going to be gauging and watching the market within these frames. So you do not buy based on the emotions, buy based on the frames of identifications that we've identified here, right? And I think after that, we should be subsiding a little bit more. And by that point, we will be basically hitting Thursday and Friday again. Thursday after the summit, we might have a rebound because Wednesday we might have some negative pressure of just like that typical buy the rumor, sell the news type of affectation, and then rebound on Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday again, right? The weekend affectation again, right? Contingent on obviously no stir in the media affectation front. And then the next catalyst coming will be on the 28th, which is the FOMC meeting. So we'll hear how that will play out on the equity side, because if the FOMC meeting is really negative on about inflationary pressure going forward, US dollar will subsequently appreciate from there, right, with the quantitative tightening, while at the same time will drag down both crypto and equity market, which is negative for obviously investors into these obviously two asset types, right? So something to be mindful of. I think these are the plays that I'm going to be playing going forward. These are the gauge and these are the numbers of resistance that you're going to be looking out for. All right, just to recap all the numbers in the technical analysis, the current level at the 1960 is a fair number to buy in, but just know that it's going to be a couple volatile weeks or days coming up. So tomorrow is going to be a binary factor. We don't know how Janet Yellen is going to be talking about the regulations going forward or any restrictions it might be going forward, and then the B word summit. So it's going to be a next couple of days of volatility that we have to be mindful of. And again, when you hear a lot of volatility, this will typically stir emotions because your dollar is kind of going up and down. So it kind of give you that type of emotional roller coaster. So I want you to be cautious and not make decisions based on emotions, right? You see that whenever I'm making decisions or executions on a price point, I am never thinking about this because I feel like it. I always think because I have a logical methodology, a plan to get there. And if you can calculate every move that you make and be cautious and be, you know, alert about how the macro drivers is going to be affecting you, while at the same time structuralize the resistance levels, then you're going to be able to buy at the ideal level and keep dollar cost averaging for the long-term gains going forward, right? And long-term gains, I still believe that corporate adoption of 20% is achievable, with $9,800, 5 times your money, with the current dynamics right now. But obviously, as we learn more on the macro side, the regulatory restrictions can hinder this adoption growth aspirations that we have here. So we might make some adjustments there. But right now, I think that's totally fair. Note the fact it took us maybe a couple of weeks for us to hit that 4,300 from the 2,000 to double from there. So hitting 20% would be actually not the most optimistic case, if you may. I think ideally hitting 40% wouldn't be surprising, or anything above 10,000 wouldn't be surprising to me either. But that's it for today. Respect my technical analysis on the Ethereum ticket ETH. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Or if your Sunday is already over, have a good rest of the week coming up. Let me know if you have any questions or anything that you'd like me to clarify a little bit more. I probably have a little bit of a brain fog this morning because I woke up so early. I barely had breakfast yet. I think I had a relatively long day yesterday, so I'm kind of winded. I slept well, but I woke up kind of lethargic in a way. I had my cup of coffee, but I'm still kind of feeling, one of those days, if you may, right? Hopefully this is helpful, and feel free to give me a shout if you have any questions, and stay tuned for next coming up. Take care. Bye.